One misconception that people have about self-employment that I would like to clear up today is that you are not necessarily going to work less. When I used to sit at my cubicle and work 40, 50, 60 hours a week, I used to think, if I did this for myself, I'd be at the beach right now. And sure, there are days that I get to go to the beach, but I work a lot for myself because it's my business. So you are going to work just as hard, if not harder, when you're self-employed.
In this insightful episode, my guest, CPA Wendy Barlin, dives into essential tax strategies for self-employed individuals, including setting aside a percentage of revenue for taxes and considering all ordinary and necessary expenses as deductible for the business. Wendy also discusses the importance of keeping receipts, hiring a reputable advisor if you want to explore the great area of tax deductions, and she offers free resources on her website for tax education. And so don't shy away from looking at your finances. Invest in your education and empower yourself with knowledge. Let's start the show. You are listening to the Self-Employed Success Podcast. This is your source for inspiration, advice, and strategies for building financial independence without a traditional corporate job. Each episode features interviews with successful entrepreneurs, freelancers, and business owners who have achieved financial freedom through self-employment. Whether you're just starting out on your entrepreneurial journey or you're a seasoned pro looking for new ideas, this podcast will give you the tools and insights you need to create a life and business that you love. Join us as we explore the world of self-employment and learn how to build the income, the freedom, and fulfillment you deserve. Welcome to the show, Wendy. I am absolutely excited to have you. Thank you for coming.
You're most welcome. I'm happy to be here and share.
Oh, this is going to be such a great conversation. It's going to be a very important conversation because we're talking about money, 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 money. Hence the reason why we are all wanting to do this thing, this self-employment thing, right? But to be successful, we need to know our money. And today, Wendy, you are going to help us understand that portion that is very, very important in our success. But before we do that, I always love to ask every single guest that comes on to share a little bit about their story, because it is clear to all of us self-employed people that it's a journey, and you're probably listening to Wendy and I right now, sitting in your cubicle with your earphones and doing work, but yet trying to figure out how you're going to successfully be out there on your own, or perhaps you're already in the trenches doing your thing and you need more resources, you need more insights, and you need to know how to take care of your business so you can be successful. And so welcome to the show for you listening. I cannot wait to dive into the conversation with Wendy. But first, let's find out about Wendy a little bit more. And so Wendy, I'm sending the mic over to you. Make sure you catch it.
I got it. Thank you. So I'm a CPA. I've been a CPA for 25 years. I came to the United States in 1997 with nothing but a bag of dirty clothes. And so I want everybody on the call today to know that everything I recommend and everything I do has been through the school of hard knocks. Just because I have a CPA license doesn't mean managing money is any easier for me than it is for you. So everything I do, I've learned. I've learned how to manage the money system in this country. I've learned how to manipulate and use the tax laws to my benefit through being self-employed and working with other self-employed people. So you can all do this. There's no magic. There's nothing crazy. You can learn the ins and outs of the money system and learn how to make decisions that are best for you. Money choices are very personal for everybody that I talk to. Their risk assessment and their feelings about money are different. But I think it's important that we educate ourselves. That's what I did. I came with nothing but a bag of dirty clothes, and I worked at several jobs where I kept thinking, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. And then when the towers fell in New York City, I quit. I quit my job cold turkey. Not necessarily something I would recommend. I did have a mortgage to pay, but it just made me hustle harder. And I worked hard. And then over time, I figured out how working hard was not the answer and working smart was. And that's where I am today. I'm teaching others the path to working smarter.
Excellent. The path to working smarter. I absolutely agree with you. I know for me personally, having to invest time and energy while working a six-figure day job, Wendy, and that included at the time traveling overseas and having to raise two children, but yet wanting that I want more that you mentioned was definitely challenging. And I felt that pain of working hard, working hard, working hard until I realized, just like you mentioned, that it's not about working hard. It's about working smarter. And I love that you mentioned that. And so with that, let's talk about being smarter with our money. Because for you listening, you may already be in the trenches. And if so, you've already have a sense of how to manage your money, but you may be missing a few things or two. So stay tuned and listen in. And for you that's yet to becoming a self-employed individual, definitely listen so you can plan the right way. And so I want to start with this, Wendy. Ready? Quick question. Awesome. So we talked about misconception at the start of this episode. I want you to tell us, what is one misconception people have in regards to their taxes for their business? What do you see commonly coming to you from small business owners in regards to taxes? And how do you address that with them?
I think business owners, in my experience, by way of misconceptions, seem to have an idea that only a CPA can help them with their taxes and that they have to go and hire very expensive help in order to minimize their taxes and that it's only for wealthy people. But it's really not true. Every single person on the call today can minimize their taxes. I have two strategies I love to tell people. One is from day one, set aside a percentage of your revenue, your deposits, put it aside for taxes right away. Don't save off the bottom line. Don't save some random amount, $1,000 a month, $100 a month for taxes, because you never know if that's going to be enough. And the very worst thing I've ever seen happen to a business owner is to come to April 15th and your accountant says to you, you owe $20,000 and you don't have it. That is devastating, not only for your finances, for your business, and as a human being. And so we need to kind of avoid that at all costs. And the only way that I have found to avoid that is to set up a separate savings account and put a percentage of your revenue into that account every single time you get deposits. I do mine every week. And then how much? Well, that depends. You either put in somewhere around the 10% mark if you live in a state with no state tax, or closer to 20% if you live in one of the more expensive states. Somewhere in there is your percentage, but you don't need an expensive CPA to help you figure that out. Start saving for taxes today as a percentage of your revenue. And the second piece that every business owner should know is that anything is deductible for your business that is considered an ordinary and necessary expense. That's what the law says. That's simple. Everyone can do that. So every time you spend $1, you say to yourself, could this be an ordinary and necessary expense for my business? And if the answer is yes, guess what? You got yourself a tax deduction. It's that simple. But you must keep your receipts. That's the other little piece. You have to keep your receipts. But that's how you find tax deductions. You look for ordinary and necessary business expenses.
I have to be honest with you, Wendy, and for you listening, I sucked at that when I first started as a self employed individual. And so I'm sharing this because I want you to know, if that's you right now, or you're like, really? Listen, I was there. And this is why, it's important to continue to educate ourselves. And Wendy, you mentioned we don't necessarily have to hire a very expensive CPA to do our taxes, right? What are the other resources or perhaps, tips that you'd say one should do other than, you shared, keep your receipts, open a separate savings, make sure that you put a certain percentage away every time you have an income coming in, revenue for your business. What else do we need to make sure we do if we're going to try to do this on our own? Are there like platforms on? I mean, everything's online. Do we have to call it a chat GPT to do it for us?
That's the way that, we're laughing, but that is the way the world is going. And in fact, as a CPA, many of us are moving our businesses towards consulting and educating only, because the actual tax returns themselves, the documents, are going to be done by computers. They already mostly are. So those of you who are by your nature conservative, I want you to honor that. If you by your nature are conservative and you want to file a tax return that is accurate, correct, and will keep you safe from ever under scrutiny, even if it means you pay a little bit more, then I highly recommend you use one of the online systems like TurboTax, TaxSlayer. Any of those online systems spend billions of dollars, billions, perfecting their system. It's a Q&A. So it will pop up on the screen and say, Wendy, did you have any car expenses? Did you use a cell phone? How much did you spend? And as long as you follow that Q&A process, you will file an accurate, clean tax return. It'll cost you $100. If you are someone who wants to be more aggressive and you want to understand, how do I deduct this kind of car? Or how do I deduct my trip to Europe? Or if you want to play in that gray area, and you know who you are, if you want to play in that gray area, that's when you hire a CPA, because the dollars you're going to pay them is going to help you learn. And it's like Tupperware. It'll last forever, that knowledge. However, be clear that when you hire that tax accountant, they are someone that wants to educate you, because there are still many old school tax accountants where literally you drop off your bag of documents or you email them your documents, they pound it through tax software, and a week later they say, here you go, Martine, sign, you're good, you owe 10,000, thanks, see you next year. There is no value in that. There is absolutely no value in that at all. All you are doing is overpaying for a tax preparer. You are looking for someone who will spend time with you through the process, look at your numbers, talk about deductions you might be missing, talk about what you can do differently next year, different entity strategies, someone who really is an advisor. And for that, you're going to pay thousands. You're going to pay thousands, but it's going to save you tens of thousands. So you look at the spectrum of who am I and what are my needs. If I'm conservative and I just want to file a clean tax return, and this isn't about how much money you make, because I have clients that make $10 million and file their own tax returns because they just want to file a clean return. I refer them to a software. They go do it. It's all good. But people who want to learn and play in the gray, go and look for a tax advisor who wants to teach you and will file your tax return, but they don't just file your tax return. I hope that that's clear, the difference. And it's a very personal choice.
It absolutely makes 150% a lot of sense, because I remember finding myself asking my tax preparer, but why? Why? Why is this that way? Right? And really just wanting to understand, because I'm like, I'm working very hard to generate this revenue. And so that's my baby. I want to love it. And because I want more of it. So asking this question, why, we should. It's not about, just getting it done and not understanding, because we're here to succeed. I love that you said that, and separating the two. And the education part is so critical. And I'm sure for you listening at this point, you're invested because you're still here. You are hearing what I'm hearing here. You need to continue to educate yourself. Wendy, with that said, how do you, not even how, the question is, what do you offer to help us educate? Because you did mention that that's where your focus is, is to support small businesses to really educate them with their taxes. Can you tell us a little bit about your offering?
Yeah, so thank you for asking, Martine. I would say that the most important thing to know is don't listen to your friends. It's not your friends at book club. It's not your golf buddies. It's not your poker buddies. It's not people at the dinner table who are bragging about all the things they're deducting. Because on Monday mornings, my phone rings off the hook with people saying, Wendy, I was at a dinner party on Saturday night and my friend is deducting her kids' private school fees, but you told me I couldn't do that and you must not know. And all these kind of crazy schemes that people love to brag about. Or you go on the internet and you see, oh, you can deduct it. Yeah, maybe, but there's so much fine print on that. You really have to be careful. So avoid family suggestions, avoid Google, and go straight to a professional. So on my website at wendybarlin.com, there is a lot of free resources, worksheets, checklists you can use. I've got some webinars you can download. Go to respected, reputable advisors for your advice, because it can be the difference between paying thousands of dollars and paying hundreds of dollars to get the education you need from a respected source. In the same way that when I have, a little bump on my arm I don't like the look of, and I go to WebMD and I run a search, I go, oh my God, I think I've got cancer. I've probably got a week to live. And then I imagine that's the end for me. It's the same with taxes. If you go to Google and look for advice, you are going to open a can of worms that is going to make you freak out. There's really no need. You need to find a professional who's offering those services to get advice that's specific to you, because everybody's tax situation is different.
To be successful as a self-employed individual, you have to invest in yourself. And that includes investing in your education, not only your mindset, and so on and so forth. And let me tell you something for you listening. This right here is worth investing time and energy and money to know and understand. Because again, we're talking about your money, the one that you want. You want a lot of, but you got to make sure that you invest your time and energy to educate yourself so you could get more of it. And so, Wendy, I love it. Thank you so much. And all of this is in the show notes. And just for you listening, it's Wendy Barlin, right? Am I saying it correctly?
Barlin, L-I-N, Wendy with a Y, Wendy Barlin, BARLIN.com.
Excellent. And so that is in the show notes. You are not going to regret spending time scrolling through her website, because she's all about educating business owners about tax deductions and telling you what your CPA knows and is not teaching you. And she gets to do that, is teach you. And so I am absolutely honored that you have spent time with us today, Wendy. Thank you again for coming on the Self-Employed Success Podcast.
You're most welcome, and great success to everybody online today.
And there you have it. It's time for you to look at your finances. Very important to be successful as a self-employed individual. You need to know that money, honey. And I'm hoping that this conversation with Wendy provided you insights and gave you the motivation to not shy away from money. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to look at it. You want it, right? And so it takes time. It's a journey, but you got to educate yourself. And so make sure you look at the show notes, connect with Wendy, let her know that you heard her episode, and grab some of her resources, if not all of them. And with that, I want to make sure that you remember to stay motivated, stay focused, continue to tune into this podcast for more inspiration, motivation, insights, and beyond as we talk about your success as a self-employed individual. I will see you in the next show. Thank you so much for listening.